Hello everybody, my name is Tiffany. Welcome back to another video. This time I'm going to be talking about remote interview tips. So some of you may be remote interviewing, some of you may be thinking about it in the future. Whatever the case may be, I got some tips. I've been through it before. I want to help you out. So let's do this. The first thing, I shouldn't really say the first thing. These are in no particular order, so just FYI. You should test with a friend. So when you're testing out your setup, what that can include is a whole bunch of things. So test out any programs that you plan to use. If you're using Zoom, make sure that your Zoom works. Make sure your computer works. Make sure your computer is up to date. That's a real thing. Make sure that you're checking on your lighting situation as well. So I know most of you don't have like studio lights or like a random setup light or anything like that. But the best thing you could do is like turn on a lamp or turn on the light in a room. Make sure that you're seen within the screen so that the interviewer can see your face, because I know some people, especially for me as a person of color, when, I sometimes don't look as bright as I am now. Honestly, I have a light back here that's giving me light as well. So you may have to fumble a little bit with lighting. I also bought in a lamp. You might have to turn on the light in a room, just whatever it takes so that they can see your face, because that's the most important thing. They want to know who they're talking to. So if they can't see your face, they're going to be like, well, I don't even know who this person is. Are they even real? So make sure you're focusing on lighting as well. And then also check for your Wi-Fi connection. So sometimes, in different spaces of your household, there might be a stronger connection in some place than another place. So, just make sure you keep it to a spot in your room or your house that provides you with the better connection. And you'll know that. So that's why it's important to like test out with a friend, spend like 30 minutes with a friend or an hour or however long it takes. Usually remote interviews are going to be an hour at a time. I haven't seen one longer than that. They might exist, but at least make sure that you're good to go for an hour, just to make sure that, again, you don't want the connection to be like super off, and you definitely don't want it to be on your end. So make sure that you're paying attention to those sorts of things while you're testing. Also, when it comes to programs as well, make sure if you are doing a code test or you're live coding with the interviewer, make sure that you have all that stuff up and ready to go. So make sure you have your code editor ready to go. Make sure if you're doing a code review of, like, let's say you had a take-home code test and now you're showing the interviewer during this interview and you're kind of going over it together. Make sure you have your code up on your screen so that you're able to follow through. And you're able to kind of refer to a line that you may need to refer to, or if the interviewer says, hey, line 37 had some stuff going on, what is this about? Or they wanted to dig more into it, then that means you're able to follow along and you're able to quickly reference what they're speaking about. So the same thing goes for your resume. So if this is like in the beginning of the interview stage and they're trying to do like getting to know you better situation, also make sure to have your resume up on a screen so that you're able to see it. You don't have to share that screen with anybody unless they instruct you to do so, but just make sure that you have it there for your own personal reference, just so that you could follow along with the interviewer. In addition to resume, code, stuff that you may need, I don't really think that you need anything else beyond like your code editor. You might need like a web page open if you're live coding so that you both can see what's going on. I would have that on one screen. Try not to switch screens to where it like slides over to another screen and then the interviewer is probably like, okay, what's going on? You're going back and forth. So make sure you have a side-by-side view of your code and also the code editor, so that way you're able to see it on one screen and you don't have to go flipping back and forth and confuse yourself and confuse the interviewer. You're already going to be like a little bit nervous. You don't want to add to that by, doing other things and making it more complicated than it has to be. Another tip for you is if you have background noise, you can use an app called Crisp. We use it sometimes at work, but it's basically to kind of clear out the background noise if you have like a dog, or if the kids have to be in the room, or whatever the case may be. You could use Crisp to kind of minimize that background noise. This is also something that you want to test beforehand, again with a friend or somebody, so that you're able to make sure that you're getting the best possible sound, and that there's no other distractions as far as sound is in the background. And speaking of sounds in the background, also be sure to take note of your actual workspace, or the space that you're interviewing in, if it's not your normal workspace. I would encourage you to like kind of clear stuff out of the background. I know for me, whenever I have meetings and such, at work, I always have a TV in my background, but it's kind of like I can't really get rid of the TV, and the spot where my computer is in and my desk is at is the best place for Wi-Fi, so I kind of can't get around that. But I also make sure to have the TV off and it's not running and it's not on and there's not like a background going on back there that's a distraction. The other things that are mostly in my background are like my router and stuff like that. So stuff like that I can't really do anything about. However, Zoom has a feature where you can blur your background. So if there is a ton of stuff going on in the background and you can't get rid of it and you don't have anywhere else to put it, or you don't have enough time to clear that space, you can also blur your background and use that so that it's not like totally crazy. So you may try that out as well. Also, when it comes to sound, so I typically use headphones whenever I'm in a meeting or anything like that, just because I don't know what is all in the background. Usually it's just me here. So, but background noise could include like the air conditioner, or if you happen to be washing clothes and there's the washing machine in the background. If you have a fan, I have a fan in my room, so I typically keep that door closed and I don't have it open just because I know that there's that fan noise that may be leaking through to another room. So it's just things like that you need to like keep in mind as you are trying to prep your space, and just be aware of those things as they come up and just kind of deal with them. But honestly, to minimize all of that, I usually just throw some headphones on. You could do that. Also test your headphones again in the whole process. I've had programs I've used for interviews for my YouTube channel where my headphones did not connect, and so I wasn't able to use my headphones, and so it was a whole thing. So make sure that you test out that stuff beforehand. All right, so as far as the actual interview, make sure that you keep in mind that you're showing enthusiasm. This is mainly just because people can't see the rest of your body, so they can only see this top part. And if you're not, some people would say, oh, well, if you cross your legs in a certain direction, it's showing a message, or whatever the case may be. So you don't have that kind of stuff for you to take advantage of. So all you have is this space here. So try to smile, show some enthusiasm. If you're excited about this opportunity, show that you're excited about the opportunity. And then you can express that in certain ways. You don't have to continuously smile if that's not your thing. I know this gets a little, this is a bit much. Like, to do this and to keep this up is tough. So you don't have to continuously do that. But what I do is I mentally check myself, and I look at myself also in the camera, and I'm like, oh, I haven't smiled in a while. One of those things. Also, another way you could do that is in the way that you speak. I try to keep a tone that shows that I'm interested, but also is one of those things where I'm not being overbearing or anything like that. And that's just kind of trial and error. It's another thing that you would practice with a friend before all of this goes down, just so that you are able to keep those things under control and really understand what's going on. The last thing I have for you is make sure that you're actually looking at the camera instead of off to the side, where it may have you kind of in the corner of the screen or whatever. If there's multiple people in the interview, your screen may be over here and you may not be able to see yourself directly in front of the lens. So make sure that you are looking, like I'm looking, straight into the lens. Another, like this is me looking off to the side at myself, at the camera, at the little screen that comes with my camera. So I'm looking at myself, basically. So don't look at yourself, look at the camera lens and make sure that you're talking to the camera lens. Another thing is, if the person you're talking to is maybe they're situated above you, if you're in Zoom or something and there's a person right there, go ahead and look at that person directly. You can do that as well, but make sure don't look at yourself. That's the main thing. I would check there occasionally, one of these, just to make sure that you're actually kind of still, everything's still okay in the background. Make sure that nothing weird's going on with your face. Who knows what may happen? I don't know. But I would mentally check there just a little bit, just to make sure you know that you're aware of it, basically. Anyways, as an honorable mention, if you end up having technical difficulties, try not to panic, okay? This has definitely happened before. I've had my computer just completely die, and it was just like, oh no. But then I was like, all right, take a deep breath. That's the first thing to do. It's gonna be okay. If you can, just kind of fix what's going on. For me, my computer just needed to restart itself, so I just let it do its thing, and then I ended up sending out a message, hey, my computer has died. So, one of those things. And then after you get done with that, come back to the interview. You could also explain what happened very briefly. You don't have to give a whole thing about it, it's fine. Just say, hey, had some technical difficulties, I'm back. And then kind of take another deep breath and begin where you kind of started from, or where you left off from. So yeah, I know that could be kind of jarring when something goes wrong, technical difficulties, or maybe you accidentally pushed the wrong button. Oops. So it's one of those things where, hey, if it happens, don't panic. Just deal with whatever's happening, the issue that's whatever happening. Address that issue if you can. If it's something that you don't have any control over, just let it do its thing. But also alert the interviewer that something has gone wrong, just so they know that you didn't just randomly leave because of something they said, especially if they're talking and it just cuts off or something like that. But yeah, just kind of keep it moving, so to speak. Don't try to get hung up on the whole thing. After it's over, you may dig in and do some research about maybe why that happened or how it happened, and then kind of get to the bottom of it from there. But don't try to spend too much time during the interview, mainly because interviews are a specific amount of time. That person has set that time for you and that other person to speak together. So don't try to waste more time. Don't try to waste more of their time trying to figure out what's wrong with your stuff. Unless, of course, they said it was on their end and they could deal with it. But if it was something that was definitely on your end, just do the minimal thing that you can do to get back up and running. And then you could kindly address that later after all is said and done. And then make sure it doesn't happen again. So yes, don't fret. You got this. You can do this. So those are the tips I have. Hopefully they're helpful to you. Hopefully that, they help you to prep and make sure that you're giving your best. Yeah, if you have any questions about any of those, or you have additional tips, leave them in a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Anything additional to that, you can follow me on Instagram as well. Sometimes I put stories up there about my day. So if you're interested in those sorts of things, make sure to follow me there. I'm also on Twitter. Admittedly, I don't post as much on Twitter, but you can still follow me there. Yeah, and if you have any suggestions for videos or anything like that, anything you want me to speak about, feel free to check the description box below. I have a form that you could fill out if you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that. Anything else related to this video, you could leave it in the comment box below, and I will see you in another one. Give this a like, thumbs up, share it with people if you think it's helpful for others, and I will see you in another one. Take care.